Is it working? Are people on? Hey everybody. Hey everyone. Good to see ya. I'm back to making IKEA furniture. Hey everyone. Hey everybody. Thanks for joining. Hey everyone. I figured we're still trying to kind of put together some semblance of a functional place to stay in DC. So I have to make a file cabinet to hold my very important files for my house. I don't know. As much as I think we try to escape paper, there are still some ways in which we can't. So making some, trying to make a home. So I'm making some stuff here. I'm making a little file cabinet. Hello everybody. So I'm just trying to get my little pieces of wood together. Hey everyone. I'm going to try to answer some questions while I do this. Multitask, talk about some of the things going on. People are saying, you are a real adult, stop with the IKEA. Okay, listen, my parents my parents would get IKEA furniture like until they were pretty old. I mean, not that they're old now, but to the present day. So you're never too old for flat pack furniture, especially when you're on a budget. What I try to do is, when it comes to waste, I try not to be wasteful with furniture. So I try to be really conscious when it comes, especially to getting flat pack furniture. There are ways that you can do it sustainably. For example, I got this little coffee table that I assembled, and there is flat pack furniture that is made of all wood. Not all of it is particle board. That said, sometimes you will get some particle board pieces, but honestly, if you are pretty kind to your furniture, first rule is try to get pieces that are all wood. I have many pieces that are all wood. And secondly, if the pieces that you get aren't all wood, if you're light with them, you can have them last a very, very, very long time. So always be conscious of your waste. Don't be a person that just like buys stuff and toss it out. That's really not good for the environment. But there are ways that you can be conscious. And the most environmentally friendly way is to always buy used furniture. So really lean on Craigslist and other things if you can. We've done that. And, flea markets and thrift stores and stuff like that. Second-hand furniture is the most environmentally friendly way to furnish your apartment. But you're not always going to be able to get everything secondhand, or you may not have time or resources, etc. Resources, secondhand furniture is usually the most affordable. But if not, then your second thing is to get real wood. And then the third thing is to always make sure that you try to take care of your furniture so it lasts as long as possible. So I'm just taking a few things out. Got to make sure I have everything, so let me just get my tools out here. Oh man, this came with a lot. Whoa. I'm looking up a question here. Let's see. All right. So someone wants to talk about easy access to birth control. I'm really excited that we are introducing this amendment. So Ayanna Presley of Massachusetts, she's my homegirl. Ayanna is incredible, and she is just a champion for women and girls especially. It's something that she's so passionate about and dedicated to, as well as all gender nonconforming people that need better access to reproductive health care. And so Ayanna is incredibly passionate about this issue. And I always think it's so funny when people talk about, like this is a women's issue, which, let's be really, to be clear, reproductive health care is not just a women's issue. It's an issue for all people, period. It's an issue for women. It's an issue for the LGBT community, because not everyone is a cisgender woman that needs access to reproductive health care. But it's also an issue that's important to men too. Like, men need to stop acting as though reproductive health care, as though, women need reproductive health care for no reason, as though we exist in silos. Like, hello, like, takes two to tango. And so we need to make sure that we look at this is about reproductive health care for all people. And I think that it's super important that we talk about that. But additionally, today and this week, rather, Ayanna Pressley led on a new bill, which I am proudly co-sponsoring and co-leading with, on introducing insurance-covered over-the-counter birth control. Hello, very important. This is extremely important, because how many of y'all have not been able to access birth control because you can't afford to go to the doctor, just for that doctor to talk to you for 5 minutes? So you pay the copay to go to the doctor, for that doctor to talk to you for 5 minutes, for him to write a prescription for you for birth control. When I first heard about this amendment, I think I had maybe the same reservation that a lot of people who have reached out to me about this have, which was basically saying, is it safe? That was always my first thing. Is it safe to have birth control over the counter? And I'm a lawmaker. I'm not a doctor. And so I don't want to play doctor by making things that should be behind the counter, over the counter, right? But then we looked into it, and this policy is actually endorsed, and Ayanna's bill and this bill on over-the-counter birth control is actually endorsed and supported by the American Association of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. So medical professionals believe that it should be over-the-counter. It is over-the-counter in many countries around the world. And it doesn't mean that you should not consult with your doctor about things. You can always consult with your doctor about getting access to birth control. And you can always, a lot of, depending on what medical services you use, a lot of people use telemedicine, or there are platforms where you can securely text or have phone conversations or video conversations with your healthcare provider. You can discuss your options with them. But what this does is that it eliminates that bureaucracy, and it lets you access birth control over the counter and not have it be exceedingly expensive, because your insurance will still cover it. So this is a bill. I think it's so important. It will make birth control so much easier. And in my opinion, even if you are socially conservative when it comes to the issue of abortion, the best way, and the states that have lowered abortion rates the most, are the ones who provide very liberal and open access to birth control and to sexual education. So the more we allow people to access birth control, the more that birth control is affordable and easily accessible, the more that children understand things like consent and understand sexual education, understand their reproductive organs, how they work, etc., the lower people's rates are in terms of actually having to seek an abortion. And then, of course, first of all, that's how you lower those rates. And then secondly, if a person is in that situation, that is a medical decision. It is not a political decision. It is not for Mitch McConnell to tell you what you can do with your uterus. It is up to you and your doctor. And so that is that. Easy access to birth control is so incredibly important to reproductive health, to maternal health, to all sorts of folks. And this is not a women's issue. This is a men's issue. And this is it's across the gender spectrum. All people should have control, and all people should be able to have reproductive health care the way that they have access to health care for all sorts of other things. So that is that. Now let me get back to sorting all these pieces. See, I usually purchase a decent amount, but there's a lot of single-use plastic in this. I hate that. I'm trying, guys. I'm not perfect, but I'm at least being conscious of it. And it does look like they're recyclable, so I'm going to make an effort there. Okay. So all the little tools and such are in here. Looking for here we go. The last time I tried doing this, I had no tools, and I would just like to say thank you to all the people who sent their little tools to our office to help out. It was very appreciated and super sweet. So that was really nice. Thank you all. Okay. Put this over here. Got my tools. Let me see what other questions we got going on here. I'm looking at your questions, guys. Sorry, guys, I'm just taking a look at your questions. All right, here's a good one. Is this coming up? Okay. Here's another really great thing to talk about. Stagnant wages despite booming economy. This is such an important thing for us to talk about, because how often have we heard from presidential administrations of both parties, I'm not here to be completely partisan about this, where people are saying the economy's going great and we should all be thankful. The economy's going great. The economy has recovered. 2008 was a long time ago. Everything is fine. And you're just kind of looking up and you're like, am I crazy? This is crazy. We're seeing it with the Trump administration. Frankly, we saw it with the Obama administration as well, where you have people saying the economy's great, the economy's great. But at the same time, you feel like you're really struggling to get by. Everyone you know is struggling to get by. Even people that you don't know are struggling to get by, or an enormous amount of credit card debt or student loan debt or both or none or whatever. And that is because the way that a lot of people try to measure the health of the economy is in overall GDP, which is gross domestic product, just the overall value and worth of the economy. So overall GDP could be booming, but the actual lived experience of people is not. And that is happening. I would argue that is happening now. I would argue that happened as well during the Obama administration. People at times called it, like, I think it happens all over the place. And I think the reason for that is because in our economy and the way that it is structured today, we have unprecedented levels of income inequality where the rich are getting richer and life is only getting harder for middle class, working class, and poor people. And so each year our economy is booming and growing, but all of that growth is only going to a small handful of people. And so as a consequence, as the cost of living increases, as rent goes up, as healthcare goes up, as education goes up, our wages, working class people's wages, are staying the same, and middle class people's wages are staying, for the most part, the same. But people will say average income is going up, even if it's a little bit, etc., or average household worth is going up because it's billionaires or multi-super millionaires, like hundreds of millions. I'm not even talking about 1 or 2 million. I'm talking about like 300, 400 million is going up. But the average person's experience is actually only getting harder and harder. And even if you get something of in a raise or a cost of living increase, compared to the actual increases in the cost of living, your wage is either staying the same or really in real terms, your wage is going down. And that is why wages will remain stagnant despite people constantly saying that the economy is booming. I think that it's a really misleading thing to say. I don't really care what party you're from. I think that if you are saying the economy is booming, but you actually look at the qualitative characteristics of working and middle class people's wages, if the majority of people's lives are not getting economically better, I do not think that the economy is booming no matter what the GDP numbers say. We need to really look at people's quality of life and the ability of the many to afford the very basic things that I would say are rights in our state and in our evolution as a society and as a people. And so for me, what that means is that I don't really care what the NASDAQ or the Dow Jones say. I don't care. And when people talk about, oh my gosh, like socialism this, socialism that, let's talk about capitalism. Okay, what is capitalism? I think that capitalism and the idea of capitalism gets confused by a lot of people. I think capitalism, a lot of people think about capitalism and they're like, oh, capitalism, that means businesses, right? That means a free market, right? That means competing for having different products compete on the market, right? That's what capitalism is, right? That's not what capitalism is. You can have free market economies with mixed economies, which mixed economies exist. You can have free market economies with democratic socialist businesses. What on earth is a democratic socialist business? And a perfect example of that is worker cooperatives. So worker cooperatives are, if you ever go to Vermont or if you go to upstate New York, there'll be grocery stores that are employee owned or they are cooperative, which means that people own the shares and workers own the shares in the company. So a more democratically, quote unquote, socialist business would have workers on the board of the corporation instead of billionaires on the board of a corporation. So it's really about democracy in the economy. I don't believe in government. It does not mean government owns everything. Socialism does not mean government owns everything. I disagree with that notion as well because I think that it is undemocratic I think that it is very easily corrupted, and I don't think that that's a good thing. But I do think that having more democracy in our economy, aka worker power, worker accountability, is a very positive thing. We do see healthy models of that, thank you very much, in the world. We see healthy models of that in businesses, and we see healthy models of it all over the place. Now, I do think that there are certain sectors where in overt for-profit incentive is not healthy, and that a public option, at minimum, a public option is a healthy and good thing. One example of that, public schools. If we had to pay, imagine if we had to pay tuition for our kids to go to school from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. It would be untenable, unfeasible. And we would have to rely on businesses that are always trying to profiteer. Imagine if Walmart ran your public school. That does not sound fun at all. And so some people are able to send their kids to private schools. You can do that if that's what you want to do. If you want to pay $30,000 to send your kid to kindergarten, which some people do in New York City, that's your business. But we as a society have decided that it is important and that it is vital enough that we provide a public option for elementary education in the United States. And that's what we do. We have a public option for public school. We have, guess what? We've decided that we are not that we're going to have a military, and that military is paid through, it is known as the common defense. We may not some people may have political views where you don't agree with that, etc., but it is a system that we have established. Other forms of public good, roads and bridges. Now, it's not to say that all of this is socialism. But it is to say that at a very minimum, many of these systems can be used as public options. And guess what? The military, when you look at the military is an original federal jobs guarantee. If you don't have flat feet, if you can pass like very basic exams and very basic levels of qualification, then you can enter the military. And you will have a guaranteed job. You will have, with certain base income, health care coverage, etc. And so these are not foreign ideals. We have a socialized fire department and all these sorts of things. So when you kind of want to revert back to this notion of capitalism is really an ideology of capital, that the most important thing is to accrue capital at any and all human, environmental, and social costs. So it doesn't matter if your employees are peeing in bottles because they can't get a break and they don't have time to go to the bathroom. If they need to pack up 100 boxes in a day or in a shift, then that's what they need to do. And so that, and all of that is to maximize profit. If you need to pay your workers less than a living wage so they can't afford to feed themselves and they have to go on SNAP or WIC even though they're working 40 hours a week, that's capitalism. It is an ideology to maximize profit and capital at any human and environmental or social cost. And what we're saying is there are some things in life and some things in society that should not be for sale. Your right to health care should not be sent to the highest bidder. Your ability to stay alive and access insulin because you are diabetic should not go to the highest bidder. Your access and ability to get insulin should be a human right. Your ability to have clean water, like the people in Flint, your ability to have clean water and to trust that your children are drinking unpoisoned water should be a human right. And the only reason that those people, those beautiful people and those innocent children and families were poisoned in Flint was due to corruption and due to a desire to accrue capital. And so that, I think, is really the issue that we're addressing. And so what we're talking about right now is a generational shift. I see this and I acknowledge it, and I'm fine with that. I think that we are experiencing profound generational shifts in attitudes across a wide variety of political issues. And that's why I don't think our issues are necessarily left and right. When you actually look at the shifts in political opinion, I think they tend to happen more along age than they do along as opposed to a lot of other different indicators. And that's because the America and the world that younger people and younger generations have grown up in is vastly different than the world that older generations and baby boomers grew up in. And so we've never seen a capitalist society that has resulted in the true benefit of the many. And for millennials, we were born after the Berlin Wall fell. 9/11 happened when we were preteens or mid-teens. The economy crashed when we were in college. The economy was horrible when we were out of college. And the government has done nothing to address a boiling planet that will doom our children and future generations due to the role of money in politics and the fossil fuel industry. So we have never seen a world where government owned all businesses, but we have lived in a world where big business has owned and bought our government. And it has resulted in catastrophic consequences. It has resulted in unprecedented amounts of student loan debt that prevents us from living our lives, starting families, purchasing homes, getting a vehicle, whatever, paying our rent. So this, business-owned government has gotten us a student loan debt crisis. It's gotten us a healthcare crisis where people are turning to GoFundMe to keep their children alive after car accidents. Business-owned government has gotten us stagnated wages for 30 years while we watch the children of billionaires go on their third yacht and do whatever. And frankly, business-owned government has gotten us Donald Trump. And so we have never seen business-owned government work for the American people. We have seen greed and a desire for profit at any human cost and any environmental cost kill our planet, endanger our children, and create miserable conditions. And so if it is extremely whatever, if you want to raise your red flag and put lasers out of my eyes and little devil horns, do what you got to do, but understand that this is a generational shift and the future belongs to us. And we need to make sure that we are responsible about those transitions. And the way that I feel is that when you want to talk about capitalism and this, that, and the other, I think that economic systems are technologies. And as humanity and technology evolves, so must our social systems evolve as well. And so I'm not a person that thinks I wouldn't even call myself an ideologue as much as folks like to portray me as one. I think of myself as rather pragmatic, and I think of myself as looking at the logical ends and consequences of past policies and saying, how did we get here and how can we alter our future and where can we go to change this? And I think at a minimum, at a bare minimum, where we can go is guarantee a living wage, guarantee health care to all people that is free at the point of sale. I think we need, let's see, minimum wage, Medicare for all. We need to make colleges, public colleges, tuition free. Community college, vocational school, and public and state school should be tuition free, as well as a bevy of other issues. Guess what? The United States is, and I'll move this here, but the United States is running concentration camps on our southern border, and that is exactly what they are. They are concentration camps, and if that doesn't bother you, we can have, okay, whatever. I want to talk to the people that are concerned enough with humanity to say that we should not, that never again means something. And that the fact that concentration camps are now an institutionalized practice in the home of the free is extraordinarily disturbing. And we need to do something about it. This week, immigrant children were moved to the same internment camps where the Japanese were held in the earlier 20th century. And this is not even about a crisis this is not just about the immigrant communities being held in concentration camps being a crisis. This is a crisis for ourselves. This is a crisis on if America will remain America in its actual principles and values, or if we are losing to an authoritarian and fascist presidency. And so I think that is, I don't use those words lightly. I don't use those words to just throw bombs. I use that word because that is what an administration that creates concentration camps is. A presidency that creates concentration camps is fascist. And it's very difficult to say that because it is very difficult to accept the fact that that is how bad things have gotten. But that is how bad things have gotten. All right, I'm like way behind on making this thing. All right, I'm going to start with these things maybe, or maybe not. I start with these things. Hey everyone, thanks so much for your support. I really appreciate it. As I try to make sense of all these parts. Let me take a look at whatever questions you guys have. Oops. Okay, someone said, how do you get free soil in NYC? So it's free compost. You can get it in New York City at participating farmers markets. So the New York City green markets, some of them have free composting. So I would say look it up there. I don't know off the top of my head which ones do it. I feel like the Union Square one must. But it could be seasonal. It could be only at certain times or junctures. But check out the Green Market website, and if you ask someone, I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out. Also, if you follow, I originally learned about it through Lucy Biggers at Now This. So shout out to Lucy. She has this amazing environmental series called One Small Step, where she's here in New York City, and she talks about the small changes that we can make to live a more sustainable life. So she helps you learn all about composting in New York City, all about single-use plastics, all about reusables, all about all sorts of things. And it's really important work. We have to change our behaviors, and we have to change our policies. And so until we are able to build enough political power to create transformative changes in our policies, which is up to us as well, we need to organize and make sure that happens. Changing the way that we consume is kind of a way of voting in our economy. And so I think it's really important to not shame people for making choices that are less sustainable, because oftentimes those choices are very much dependent on your economic status. For example, I find that if you go to a bodega, a lot of the stuff is like single-use stuff that is wrapped up. It's really hard to be zero waste if you rely on a bodega for your meals. So I'm really conscious about making sure that we don't shame people for making less sustainable choices, but it is really important that we kind of come together and figure it out. And in those small changes that we can make, we do make them. For example, I no longer use disposable razors. I use single blade razors. And what's amazing is that a permanent single blade stainless steel razor can cost just as much as a pack of disposable razors. I always used to feel so guilty throwing away disposable razors because it felt like such a huge waste to me every single time. And also the instructions on disposable razors, it's like, use it 3 times before you throw it out. And I'm like, first of all, no. Second of all, that's so wasteful. It's this whole handle, it's this whole injection mold plastic handle, and you use it 3 times and throw it away. That's the worst. So I got a stainless steel razor, and first of all, it saved me so much money. And that's the nice thing, is that not always, but there are a lot of times where your sustainable switches save you a ton of money. So I got a stainless steel razor. It cost me like $12 or $15. And now for the rest of my life, the razors themselves, it's like a year's supply of them are like, I don't even know, not a lot of money. They can come down to like 5 cents a razor, and you can use each razor a lot, and then you're able to recycle all of the razors, and the razors are incredibly recyclable and reusable. So it's a small switch, but it has saved so much plastic from coming out of my household, and that's really great. And let's see, they're some of the most basic switches are some of the most transformative ones. So if you think about what activities you can replace every day, I have reusable mugs and reusable water bottles. And what I've learned, the trick to it for me, is to have several. So I don't just have one reusable coffee mug. I have honestly maybe 4 or 5. And it's really nice because if you put it in the sink, if you come home late one night, you put it in the sink, and you don't have a chance to wash it out that night. By the time you wake up the next morning, you can just grab your second one and then wash them both. And it's really nice, and you kind of can have a few of them if that's what's easier for you. I have multiple I have multiple reusable bottles, which are really great. And it does feel really good. It takes time, and then you also just forgive yourself. If you forget your reusable for the day, like, don't beat yourself up over it. Like, you know what? If you had to use that coffee cup that day, you had to use that coffee cup that day. But if you use your reusable 3 days out of 5, 4 days out of 5, that is such a huge and massive win. And just compare that to what it would have been if you never got one at all, or if you never tried one at all. So, so for me, the biggest reusables are probably a stainless steel single blade or double edge razor. I don't know, one of those. Reusable water bottle, reusable coffee mug, and then I thrift a lot of my clothes. I purchase them a lot secondhand, which is an enormous save on the economy. Textiles, aka clothing and like furniture and this stuff, is one of the biggest sources of waste in the world. And so if you can do a clothing swap with your friends, if you can thrift your clothes, if you can resell your clothes, honestly, and again, it saves you a ton of money too. What I would do a lot is that I would go to certain thrift places, like in New York, you have Buffalo Exchange or Beacon's Closet, or there's a ton. And then what you do is you go in, and a lot of them will curate very trendy clothes. To be honest, like I would be able to purchase clothes that were like designer and super expensive retail, and I would be able to buy them at a thrift shop for like $30. I'm not even kidding you. The blue dress in my profile photo was no joke a designer dress that I got from a thrift store for like $35. That normally retails for something like, honestly, maybe it's like a $500 dress, wool dress that I got for like $35 at a thrift shop. And then what's great is that you use it and you wear it, and then you love it, and then you can either wear it until there are holes in it, or even if you wear it and you don't love it anymore, or you outgrow it, or your body changes shape, then you take it back to the thrift store and they'll buy it back from you. They can consign it back from you. So then what I would find was that I would buy something for like $35 that was like really well designed and excellently made, and then I would wear it, and then I would bring it back, and the consignment shop would buy it back from me. And not at the same, but then that like $500 designer dress was something that I ended up between buying it and then getting it bought back, something that was ultimately a $20 purchase that I wore over and over again. So I think thrift shops are amazing, and consignment shops are amazing. I highly recommend them. And they're one of the best ways that you can reduce your waste, your carbon footprint. And so let's see, thrifting clothes, stainless steel razors, reusable water bottle, reusable coffee mug, and let me know what your all's best reusable substitutes are. But I'm really not building this furniture at all because I'm getting so caught up in having this conversation with you all. But but I really appreciated this conversation. And now someone said reusable toothbrush. I've seen that as well. Reusable toothbrushes are really big. So you can buy bamboo toothbrushes that compost. Plastic toothbrushes are another huge source of waste. And the really tough thing is that a lot of toothbrushes are very difficult to recycle. So, someone says, what do you think? Someone says, what do you think about reusable straws? I've got one right here. This is another great one. I have stainless steel straws in my apartment. Some people have glass straws. I really love them. I bring my own silverware. I have bamboo silverware that I bring places. In my apartment in New York, I have so many plastic silverware, like takeout things. It drives me nuts. It's a huge source of waste. And so anyways, if you can bring your own bamboo stuff, or if you tell Seamless or tell whomever, whatever your takeout people are, if you just tell them skip the plastic silverware, just use your stainless steel silverware, that's a huge thing. So I use reusable straws, metal straws, when I can. I don't believe in outright bans of plastic straws because it is an issue for the disabled community, and it becomes very difficult for some people of certain disabilities to be able to live their lives. But I do think that maybe having plastic upon request, or having someone ask, do you need a straw? Would you like a straw? Before just automatically giving them to everybody is good, because sometimes it's a bummer when I don't want them, but sometimes it's automatically put kind of in my cup. So yeah, I have stainless steel straws. You can get them with the bend. You can get them without the bend. They're really great. All right, so I'm going to go finish making this furniture because I am not doing a good job right now. But I'll see you all. Thank you all so much for joining. And hopefully we'll do another live soon. Bye-bye.